You have Coach there. He can.
And this is your Legend segment. I'm your host, Bobby Butler. And tonight, guys, we got two of the finest legends, not only in Palm Beach County, but in the state of Florida and the national legends. We got with us tonight the legendary high school basketball Coach Floyd Andrews is with us tonight. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bobby. Glad to be here.
And then the other guy we got on was his coach on the floor when they played high school basketball at Roosevelt High School. Coach was the head coach at Roosevelt doing segregation during that era. And Mr. Rick Easley was the point guard in 1968 when these guys did something special. And it's something to talk about. These guys went undefeated in the 1968 season, the first year that all black high schools were allowed to play white schools for a true state championship. And they won it all. They went 27-0. It was a special year. They made history. They're the first high school in Palm Beach County to win a state title. And so we're happy to have you guys on the show, guys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bobby.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, listen, man, let's talk about it. You know, it's something about Palm Beach County. On the north end of Palm Beach County, you know, it's something in the water when it comes to basketball. You know, it's just something in the water. And then when you go to the south side of the county, when it comes to football, there's something in the water on the south side of the county. So what does that make the Palm Beach Riviera area a special place for basketball?
Well, I'll let Coach jump in there first.
Well, they call it history. We had a lot of historic teams in this area.
Yes.
Especially at Roosevelt. We had the Whiz Kids that came around at the Industrial because that moved on up to what we call Roosevelt in 1951. And I think maybe what we had was teams that played very well and teams that were leading in all of the areas from Miami all the way up to maybe Fort Pierce at the time, and up to the time that we started to move into the other association.
I tell you, it's powerful, man. You know, when I growing up in Palm Beach County, you know, Delray, we played a lot of football. We were introduced. My generation was introduced to Pop Warner football. So, you know, we had a chance to play at a young age and to develop. And so I've asked some of my counterparts that were a few years older, what did you guys do? But they played a lot of street ball. They competed in the community and, you know, they got reps and they all played at Carver High at a young age and they had to just wait their time, right? And so I know that was the same case, Ricky, with you guys at Roosevelt, because you've had some great players before you came along. And before you guys did what you guys did, and what was it like for you being inspired by those guys?
Okay, well, I can really tell you, kind of piggyback on your first question too, kind of that history, because when you think about it, like Coach Andrews said, initially Industrial High was the only school for Negroes back then.
Right.
And they started that like in 1914. So when they really started Roosevelt in 1950, with us growing up, that was the school for us. So you had teams back there when Coach was playing. And of course, I don't remember him because he was a little ahead of my time. But I do remember hearing about guys in the early 60s like Laverne Todd, like James Red Allen, his brother, and those folks. And those were teams in the early 60s that won state championships in Florida and went on to be runner-up in the national tournaments. And that happened, you know, more than one time.
Wow.
So you had that early history of basketball on the Roosevelt side.
Absolutely.
But in terms of community, you know, for me, you had the different parks and you had Dunbar Village and you had all the good guys who would come out there. And of course, the younger guys didn't play with them because you wouldn't dare drive to the hoop because you couldn't defend yourself.
They're gonna put you down.
So it was that exposure to them, watching them, and when you could play, you did. but you had a lot of basketball history. So you watched it, and you always wanted to go to Roosevelt when you were in elementary, junior high, and it just kind of played out that way.
Wow, that's amazing, man. But Coach, when you talk about basketball, and you say something like 27-0, that's unheard of. It's hard enough for a football team to go 10-0, right? For you to go 27-0, I mean, wire to wire from the beginning. You guys were special. What was your philosophy as a coach back then? Because when I'm looking at some of the stats of this Roosevelt team, the 68 team in particular, you were beating teams, 90-63, and you guys broke the clock a few times, and in that era, you didn't have a 3-point line. Were you pressing a lot? What was your philosophy? What did you do to run score up like that, to score that many points?
Well, we really had a dedicated team, and we got to start maybe at their JV age, and I had them at that time.
Okay.
So we sort of got used to each other, and we had our history behind us. And the teams that were behind them, I was behind those teams.
Right.
So the guys that were named during that time, they were the guys that had had my shoes to get in the game.
Right.
So they became very good ball players. And I came out, I went to A&M. I played at A&M, Florida A&M, that is. And then I came back out of in 1960. And I went to North Florida.
Okay.
And I went to North Florida in Gulf County, Port St. Joe, and a little town called Weehawken.
Okay.
And, I had a real great experience there, but I came back to West Palm Beach in the 60s. I say like 62, 63, 64 school year. I came back because I had contacted Manpower in California, and I was going out there to work. Okay. I had just gotten married, and my wife right now were going to take that trip out in California. So I was here on a little stop, went up to the gym and played some ball in the afternoons and so forth. And my high school principal was there. Came down and talked to me one day and asked me if I would be interested in being at Roosevelt. And I told him that I had a job that I was going to in California. He told me to come the next day. And I might want to change my mind. So I actually did go up the next day. What was so funny about when I went up the next day, I went into his office, and I was dressed in just a shirt and pants, and I had my shirt out. So when I walked in, Mr. Sayo said, "Will you put your shirt in?" That shocked me because I had forgotten that I had to do that at Roosevelt. We had some rules there other than rules with basketball.
Right, right.
So we talked, and he told me, he said, Floyd, I have checked on you anyway, what you're doing up in North Florida. He said, you're coaching and you're also teaching science, and you're teaching math, and you're teaching, science, biology, and general science. And we could use a versatile guy like you.
Right. Wow.
So why don't you think about it? See if you would be interested in coming back home, because you're already a part of a lot of history here. He said you played in 1955, your senior year. He knew something about what we did.
Right.
And we moved from there, and I took the job. I never was interviewed other than that talk with him.
Okay.
I got the job, and I had the JV team, and I had that JV team under Sammy Marshall. Sammy Marshall had those teams in the 60s. I think in 1960 and 1961, he had a state championship team. But you have to understand that we at that time, we played in the FIAA, which was the Florida International Athletic Association, which was the Black association. And we were a really strong team. We had Broward County and Dade County, and we had up in Fort Pierce, and we played over in Orlando. And naturally on the West Coast was Tampa and St. Pete, and those areas were really tough. So when we had tournaments during that time, when I was in the high school, we played the high school tournaments in Tallahassee.
Okay.
So we had teams from Miami, teams from Tampa, teams from Jacksonville, from Daytona, and it was really just a good time. You know,
so
as a matter of fact, my senior year, we came in third. You know, we were shooting for first. The team that won the championship that year was Carver High School from Coconut Grove in Miami.
Okay.
And we had played 2 other times during the year, and we split. So I guess they got the best of us in that semifinal game, and we ended up playing Daytona and the famous Patch Head, and we beat them for consolation. But just to tell you that much, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I could carry all up the whole area that we came into the different areas for playing in the tournaments.
Well, I tell you, back in those days, the competition from Miami all the way through the state, just like you mentioned, you know, when you talk about Carver High down in Miami, you talk about Blanchile and Pompano, you talk about Dillard High School. I mean, it was some stiff competition back then. I mean, they had the better athletes in the county at those schools, and you got a chance to participate against them. You know, I like the fact that the year y'all went 27-0, Coach, you know, y'all went down to Dillard and smashed them, right?
Yeah. You know, I like to be able to tell you that we had it all planned. But if I told you that, I think if Rick is here, he'll probably get it straight. So I tell you what happened. We kind of sort of differed on a few little things. My philosophy was to play each game to win. So naturally, I didn't say, oh, we're going to go 27-0, but it's in the mix.
In the mix, that's
so
right.
In my philosophy, you plan to play every game to the fullest and to win every game.
Right.
I didn't know whether to expect it, but I did expect it because it was my philosophy. But I think Ricky will tell you something a little bit different on that. So we had such a real.
Well, if I could, Bobby, let me kind of back up a little bit, because you were mentioning about scoring, that kind of thing. And you talk about the quality of the team or the caliber of the team. I want to drop some scores on you so you'll know specifically what we're talking about.
Okay.
Now, you're talking about, as you said, we're playing 8 minutes a quarter. That's a 32-minute game.
Right.
All you can score is 2 points or 1 point, no 3-point line. Okay, I'm going to run down some scores for you quickly, because on a 20-game regular season, we scored over 100 points 5 times.
Wow, that's crazy.
And let me say, for Roosevelt, at one time, it was Roosevelt 108, Lincoln Park 65.
Wow.
Roosevelt 124, Attucks 79. Roosevelt 101, and it's not personal now, but Carver got 61. Okay? Delray.
We play football.
Yeah, okay. Roosevelt 109, Dillard 67.
Wow.
Roosevelt 106, Kennedy 64.
Wow.
That's regular season. Now, we went to a district tournament. You played 3 games. In that 3-game span, we scored 118 points the first game. Jupiter scored 54.
Wow.
Second game, we did 109. Belgrade did 675. Roosevelt, third game championship, 121. Kennedy, 97.
Wow.
So not only did we score, but Coach had us playing defense too. So it wasn't just run and gun and who had the ball last.
Right.
So it was a combination of things there. So for us, for that regular season, we averaged 90 points a game.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, defense. We gave up 70 points a game, and their colleges don't score 90 points a game, man.
Oh, absolutely. To this day, with a 3-point line.
Yeah, that's what I'm screaming. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So
special.
you were special, no doubt about it. So
very special.
So Ricky, you were the point guard. You were the floor general.
Yeah.
You averaged about close to 20 points a game. That year. Tell me about your teammates. Tell me about Michael Land. Tell me about all of them. Ron Tweet Nicholson. Tell me about James Smith and Greg Greasy Lowry. Tell me about those guys.
Okay, well, the thing about the team, and I think one of the things that made us successful is we had our roles and we kind of accepted those roles. Okay, so everybody can't
that's key.
Be a star for the most part. You have to know how you're going to help the team. Now, for James Smith, and as you know, we always have nicknames, and his nickname was Dead Cow.
Cow?
Dead Cow. Don't ask me where you got it from. I don't know. Okay. But James's role, I mean, he was more of the defensive guy for the guard. We could expect some double-figure scoring from him. And that was pretty much his role, along with some other things. Okay. Now, with Nick, Ron Nicholson, it was pretty much, he's about 6'5", 6'6". It's Nick, get some rebounds, block some shots, let us get the fast break going.
Okay.
Michael Lang, about 5'10". He could score in double figures, get rebounds. And this guy, 5'10", he had thighs like a telegram post. And he's only one or two guys that I ever saw about that height who could stand under the basket and dunk the ball.
Pogo stick.
Pogo stick.
Yeah, that's where he got it from. Now with Greg, he was nicknamed Greasy too. Greg was a good jump shot shooter, and in terms of slang, he would be what we would call a gunner, because his main thing is he wanted to shoot. And you had to talk him into playing defense. And he was a very good jump shot shooter. But I can tell you, when the opponent shot the ball, before we got the rebound, he was headed down court for the fast break. Okay?
Give me the ball.
Now, for me, I was another jump shot shooter, point guard, as you said, but I would play the guard too. And when James Dead Cow wasn't playing the best guard, then I was defending the other best guard. So for me, it was scoring and defense and playmaker. So that's pretty much what the roles were.
Well, you from my understanding now, you played the chess game. I mean, you can drill it from the perimeter, but you also take guys to the basket. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you too, but part of that came from, as I mentioned, playing at the park around Dunbar Village.
Absolutely.
Where if you're playing with the big guys, and then these guys who are varsity just out of high school, and you got a chance to play what we call 21 a little bit, you didn't go in there try to get a rebound. You got the long rebound and you practice your jump shot because you were not going to drive to the hoop. You know,
right, absolutely.
But that kind of thing helped out, because even at that point, Greg and I would go to the park, and we got so good that we played 21, and you get a bucket and you go back to the foul line and you shoot until you get to 21. Well, we got so good that guys wouldn't let us shoot from the foul line. We had to shoot from the key. Yeah, I mean, because they knew Greg and I, we could run off 8 or 9 points in a row.
Right,
no problem, But that's kind of thing that preps you for that, man. So that's kind of how to play it out.
So now, scoring all those points, right? I mean, you guys were, you were on it. You were scoring, you was putting up numbers.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, I'm quite sure in a 27-game season, you guys had to be down at some point at halftime, right? Were you ever down at halftime?
Yeah, we were down. And I'll tell you what happened in one game like that with Northwestern, because
from Miami, Miami?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, we were probably about 15-0. And for me, I'm looking back at those great teams we talked about at first at Roosevelt, who only lost like 2 games in a season.
Right.
And I'm thinking nobody would ever have a team that good again.
Right.
So you just look at it.
Uh-huh.
And we were about at that 15 point area.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing Northwestern. And these guys came out, they were shooting, scoring, I mean, doing a great job, everything. And folks coming off the bench scoring. And I'm thinking, how did these guys lose 5 games as well as they're playing, and we're not playing bad defense?
Right, right.
So we're down at halftime, 19 or 20 points. All right.
What?
So we go into the locker room, and I'm thinking, well, if we're going to lose, it's probably going to be tonight.
Right.
And coach comes in there, and this is where I gain that additional respect. And he said, is there anybody in here who thinks we can't win this game?
Wow. Wow. There it is.
We're down by 19, 20 points.
Wow.
And
actually, the scary part, can you hear?
I can hear you. Uh-huh.
Actually, the scary part about that game was actually we were in Miami and we were playing Mays High School. And I had some buddies from A&M who were in there to see my team. And they all thought that it was over, so they started to leave at halftime.
Oh, wow.
So because we were down 19, but at one point in the second quarter before halftime, we were down by 30.
Wow.
But we cut it to 19 at halftime.
Wow. Man.
So that's the scary part. So we went in, we had put in a defense before then, which was a half-court trap.
Okay.
And we came out in the trap in the third quarter. We closed the gap in the third quarter. And then we went on and tied the game up, and we won the game by a small margin because we still played tough competition.
Oh, absolutely.
But I went out to the parks in Miami in the area, and some of the friends were saying, well, you got shellacked tonight. I told them to read the papers tomorrow, and let's see who won the game.
Let's see who won the game.
And that's the kind of season that we had. But I want to say something about happened with Rick. When I was putting that team together, we didn't have our point guard. And I was afraid that was going to be our dilemma. But Rick and Greg both were good shooters. I was not sure whether who was the better shooter.
Right.
It's just that Greg's range was longer. And Rick's shot selection was greater, so he was a little bit closer. But I offered the challenge to Rick to play point guard. He had the funniest look on his face. He knew that point guard wasn't going to get all those shots. He didn't really like that. But he took the challenge.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That was the greatest thing that could have happened at that time.
Yes.
So
yes.
Greg saw that happen, so he wanted to try it. So I knew he couldn't do that.
Right.
So I put him in one day in practice, and nobody got the ball but so he decided himself that Rick was the man for that job.
Right. That's great, man.
That's one of the great things. But I want to also say this, that wasn't the greatest thing that happened, winning that championship and also winning 27-0. Because I was really inspired by the fact that 6 out of our 7 players got college degrees.
That's awesome.
College got scholarships and got college degrees, and I thought that was humongous.
That's the big deal, Coach.
That was the big thing, and that was the thing that I wanted kids to see and understand, that wasn't just a team that played hoops, but their athletic ability was great, and their academic ability was also as great. So we looked for a long time. I looked for a long time trying to find what had happened, but that team was voted as the team of the decade. But one of the funnest things that what Rick was telling you about was during the time we played the postseason. So naturally, we went into the Florida High School Activities Association.
Right.
So at that point, the local newspapers said that we were going to be playing this team and that we hadn't played a team like that because that team was basically a white team. And we were a run and gun, they were thinking.
Right.
So they were going to come in and slow it down on us. And that's the team that Rick told you that we beat 109 to 60 something.
Oh, my God.
Comical then.
Oh, my
but if
God.
you notice that all those games were hard, but we played Kennedy, which was an all-black school. But the point is, we weren't real happy about the game. We scored 117, 18 points, or whatever it was. Rick knows the exact amount.
Yeah.
But Kennedy scored almost 100 points themselves, so I was a little bit disappointed.
Right.
You know, that because the defense almost always would match and do what we needed to do, and I didn't want them to get the wrong idea about what we had to go into. So we were ready to go into the rest of that particular part of the season, which was the postseason.
Right.
And we were meeting teams at that time that were a lot different. We couldn't probably run on some of those teams. Some of them were very big. They used their size to get by on that, and that was a good thing. So we were ready to challenge that also. And we challenged through the entire thing. And it's just so hard to go undefeated.
Man, it's
but we had a game that we had to play away from home, but the team we were playing on that time was 25-0.
Wow. Okay.
And we played them in a team out of Arcadia. Okay. And we were on their home team, on their home court. And we carried as many people from West Palm Beach as they had in Arcadia.
I love it, man.
As a matter of fact, I mean, to sort of verify that, on our way back, I look back when we were making the trip coming back, and you can see nothing but cars coming from Arcadia to West Palm Beach.
That's it, Coach. That's special, man. When you got people traveling with you like that, it's not necessarily an away game. I mean, you got your folks in the stands, and cheering you guys on. That's big right there. That's big right there.
Hey, Bobby, if I could, I want to put a disclaimer out on what Coach was talking about. Because when he said that I had a look on my face when he wanted me to be the point guard, that look was a look of surprise. That's what it was. Because I never considered myself to be a point guard.
Right.
Because the point guards that I grew up looking at, they were fancy dribblers behind the back, between the legs, and all of that.
Right.
And that wasn't my style. I mean, I was a jump shot shooter. So what that look was, are you sure you want me to do this? But the thing he was saying about Greg, another example of that ties into it was when we were coming back on Northwestern, we were down so far. We had fast breaks, and I would tell Greg, don't pull up and shoot a jumper, man. Drive to the court. We might get 3 points. Exactly. But that's what he liked to do. So I just wanted to make that clear. It's not that I didn't want to do it. I was in shock, man.
Well, Ricky, let's look at this. Coach is a good judge of character, and you have you have leadership skills. And, sometimes a leader, some people are born leaders, with a little bit of direction, you put them in place, and, the rest is history. With 27-0, baby.
Well, he definitely saw something that I did not see, because I never would have even raised my hand to be a point guard, man. I guess the other thing I would share with what he was talking about too was, even though we could score those points, there were teams like Lake Shore out of Belgrade who would slow the ball down. And even in those slow games, we ended up still beating them. Even though we didn't score more than 80 points, we still ended up beating them, and they slowed the ball down.
That's really hilarious the way you say that, Ricky. You said, when we only score 80 points.
Okay.
We only score 80 points. You can go to a high school game right now today with a 3-point line. They're not going to score 80 points, man. So that's funny. But the thing I remember back in those days, I was a little kid, going to Carver High football games and a few basketball games in their gym. But it's just the level of talent that you played against. I mean, you had talent, but every opponent had great talent.
Yeah.
You know, and I can remember those games, man. When Blanche Ely came to Delray to play football, I mean, their football team was great, you know.
Yeah.
They had athletes, basketball, baseball, football. I mean, they did it all. And so you guys played the finest talent in the state back in those days, from Miami to Fort Pierce. Y'all did.
Yeah, I mean, I would say too, I mean, for me to kind of look at it, I guess, full view, it would be, you can have the talent, but you have to have good coaching, and that's where Coach Andrews comes into play.
Absolutely.
But I'm also gonna tell you, and I know Coach may disagree, but to go undefeated, you have to have a little luck along the road, man. Because you think one game somebody may be injured, you may have an off night, or anything could happen.
Right.
But we were able to go through the whole thing with talent and good coaching, but also good defense, and that made a difference.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that luck is being prepared to take advantage of the situation when you get the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I thought that we need to be prepared for anything. And I thought that defense was the thing that made us prepared for that.
Okay.
So we were always prepared with defense, but we had a great team offensively. And we had a great team that was led by Rick, who became a terrific point guard. Not fancy, but sound.
There you go.
Smart. Coach on the floor. I had an opportunity to really test that out, because during that same year, we had a teacher walkout as such that came. We went out to protest pay. And I went out with the teachers, and we were in the season.
Wow.
And what it was that I couldn't get on the bench because it was a violation for me on the bench since I was out of school.
Right.
So my JV coach sat on the bench. But we would practice many times, and sometimes I would practice them by giving them signals. And Rick knows I gave him signals, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, whatever the defense was. And I could transfer a signal from Rick, from me to Rick, and he was a coach on the floor.
Absolutely.
So it didn't just happen at the time of the game. It was practice. It was intended. It was a part of the philosophy that it happened. So I had a great appreciation for that undefeated season, even though I wasn't looking at it. But what I was looking at it was that we were prepared to win every game.
Right.
And if you win every game,
right,
you'll be undefeated.
Right. And you know, Coach, when you're down by that much against the Northwestern game, and then you come into halftime and say what you said to your team, it shows a lot about the character of the team. You know, because when you spoke to them, they believed it, you know. And so you didn't come in and say, well, you know, tonight we just got our off night and, you know, we lose some, we win some, right? You said, is anybody in this room think we can't win this game? Man, that's powerful right there. And it was almost like a check for the guys in the locker room, right, Ricky?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, nobody raised their hand, but it was like, okay, let's see if we can do this, you know. And it happened where the defense worked, and fortunately, in terms of, I'll call it timing, we had practiced that defense the week before, and it worked, you know. So that's all a part of it.
That's it, man. That's it.
You know, if I could, Bobby, one of the things I want to find out from Coach Andrews, want him to share with you is kind of like during the middle of the season, you know, you're practicing, and you know, practices are always pretty serious.
Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, and this is the question, Coach, he brought in music while we were practicing. I mean, the top R&B stuff. So my question is, why did you bring in music during that time?
Well, sometimes what you're doing gets sort of monotonous, and you become complacent.
Right.
So I wanted to throw a little riff in there to make you come back to life and to ordinary things. And I knew that's what you wanted to hear, and that was your thing. It wasn't necessarily mine, but it was okay with me.
Right.
So,
Okay.
it worked.
And listen, and I tell you one thing about music, it is always inspiring, right? Even to this day, you can see guys getting ready to play a football game, basketball game. Before the game, they got their headphones on.
Yeah.
They're bopping their head. They're getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting ready, man. Music plays an instrumental part in sports in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it does. It was a surprise because you're thinking he's going to be super serious, and it's like, hey, he's bringing in R&B, so maybe he's trying to relax.
little Marvin Gaye, little Eisenberg.
Yeah, all of that.
All that, man. Well, Coach, listen, man, you've had a phenomenal career, man. Your record is like 421 wins against 115 losses, man. And not only did you go 27-0 in 1968, when I was in high school, after segregation, when we integrated, you were the head coach at North Shore High School, where you won 2 more state titles and coached some great players at North Shore, and you kept putting it together. And so when you talk about your success, who were some of the men who really helped you early on in your career, in your coaching career?
I tell you, really, Bobby, it started a long time ago. I think it was one of the guys that maybe touched the lives of many young people that came during that time. Mm-hmm. Richard Brooks, Coach Brooks. Mm-hmm. He would pick us up in the afternoons, and he would take us to play at different places and even out of town. Mm-hmm. As youngsters, he would have us just crowded in his car, mm-hmm. and would spend a lot of time with us. As a matter of fact, he sort of messed my shot up, keeping me in the gym. He shot a set, and he taught me his set shot. Uh-huh. And I became so good at that set that they called me Radar. So I came through, and Bradley Mitchell was my coach.
Okay, all right.
So I wasn't a great defensive player, but anytime we had zones, I was a zone buster.
Right.
So it was just a great opportunity, and we just had a good time doing some things there. So, but we did have those. We had some great players on our team, and we had some great teams before our team. Mm-hmm. And then after we played, we had guys like Laverne Tott, Red McAllen, mm-hmm. and those guys who went off to school and did very well. Mm-hmm. And then when time came back, and I coached Rick and those, mm-hmm. certainly Rick and those were really the best, and I thought they were really a lot different. Even though we had 10 players on the team, mm-hmm. They were all getting some time in, uh-huh. but they didn't get maybe as much time as sometimes we wanted to, mm-hmm. but we could have, because they got enough time to play. But we were putting a team together the whole year, right. And it was for a reason. As a matter of fact, I tell you too, people enjoyed seeing them. Mm-hmm. Just enjoyed seeing the team and the camaraderie they had, mm-hmm. and they were just skillful, and they were just good people. Mm-hmm. So now, when things came through desegregation, mm-hmm. and there were some things that were going on, and the county, the district was offering some things, because here I had won a state championship, mm-hmm. and the team was voted as the team of the decade.
That's right.
And now we are going to be merging with Palm Beach High, mm-hmm. which was really, in their image, the real school in Palm Beach County, because it was basically white.
Right.
So they started a sort of, and I say they, but the district, mm-hmm. the way they did it was they came through and they took some better teachers that we had in our schools, mm-hmm. and they didn't know, the kids didn't know what they were going to do with me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Naturally, we had a real close relationship, mm-hmm. with all the students and so forth. So we we didn't know the one thing that we thought we might be able to keep from Roosevelt would be that part of our athletics.
Right.
So they threw us a curve,
Mm-hmm.
and they offered to give the football team.
Mm-hmm.
That was not satisfactory to our students, but the coach of the football team was Al Sutton.
Okay.
And Al Sutton told them that he would not take the job because he thought that maybe I should have the job.
Mm-hmm.
So something that happened that you were pretty familiar with. So they moved from West Palm Beach and went to Delray and got Roger Coffey.
Coach Coffey, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And Coach Coffey came up. And, you know, Coach Coffey was a great coach. And he did a great job. But you know, who could argue with the fact that you're getting Coffey as a coach?
Right.
So there was no argument there. And what I did was after they had tried to give me many different jobs, they tried to give me an athletic director, an activities director. They tried to give me the coaches of maybe 3 or 4 other teams at schools, but I didn't take them.
Right.
I told them that I would just stay there and teach biology.
Right.
And not coach for the year, but things got so hot that they opened up the school over at North Shore. And how they did that was Marshall, who I had been his JV coach for 3 years, had gone over to North Shore because he knew the school was closing at that time. So he got a head start. So they promoted him and gave him an administrative job over at Suncoast High School and sent me to North Shore. Well, I think that they thought that was my graveyard, that it was all over for me.
Wow.
So I went to North Shore, and when I got to North Shore, they were 2-22.
Wow.
The year I came over.
Man.
We grabbed the bull by the horn.
Right.
We went to work. They already had a schedule made up. So we were playing Martin County, who was a real powerhouse.
They were a powerhouse.
First game of the season, I put my little team together, and we went up there, and boy, they beat us like a drum.
Wow.
They ran us out of the gym.
Wow.
I came back. That was a Friday night. Came back that Saturday. We had a meeting over at Belglade. And when I walked in the building, I came up the steps and I could hear them talking. Well, don't have those horses now. we get a butt beat. See, well, I got to the door and I turned around and I went back and got in my car.
Wow.
And I came back to West Palm Beach and I picked up every player that I had.
Right.
And we went in the gym and we worked and we worked and we worked and we worked every day, and we came back and we played our season and we went 16-0 from there.
Wow.
It was 16 games before we lost a game that year, and we ended up really having a terrific season. We lost 3 games that year, I believe it was.
Wow.
Maybe 2 or 3.
Well, I tell you, that one team you had when I was a freshman at Atlantic High School, you had Conrad Jones, you had Curtis Brooks.
Yeah.
You had
you were 74?
74. You had Logan, you had was it Nelson, the top
Nelson, right? Barrett Logan and Conrad Jones, I believe Clyde Phillips.
Nicholson, right?
Nicholson was on that team. There was another Nicholson now.
Right. And so
I coached 3 of those Nicholson brothers.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, that team was special right there in itself.
Yeah, it was special. We had a great leader on that team. You know, I almost had to have a point guard to have a successful season because my philosophy was there.
Right.
So Conrad was my point guard there, and Gerard, who was a terrific player, but he only played when Conrad got in his grip.
Right, exactly.
And Conrad stayed on him, and he played like a champ.
Yeah.
And that's how we won that championship that year.
Yeah.
Because we started playing. Actually, like I said, we had played in a tournament in Gainesville, but now the site was changing. We moved from there. We went to Lakeland. So we played tournaments in Lakeland,
right?
And I believe we moved back again Then we came back and we played. I think the last place I played, which was at Palm Beach Lakes, and I think we played in 91. We went to state in Tallahassee, so I sort of made the gamut.
Right.
We didn't win them all, but we played in the tournaments. We ended up playing. I think a team out of Pensacola in the state tournament with Lakes. So, and that carried me sort of through my retirement.
Yeah. Well, man, you've had a great career. You coached some great guys, but I think the biggest thing, Coach, is how every player from Ricky Group on up, how they see you as a person, how you help them in their lives, by your standard. They all went to college and got degrees. They all became productive men in society. I had the chance to play against guys like Darryl Mitchell, who's an attorney, WAP, Derek Hopper, all those guys that you coached, Frank Stallworth, all those guys are great men to this day, and a lot of that had to do with you, the way you coached them and that extra father figure that they had in their lives. So
the game has done a lot for me too. I had an opportunity to have 2 McDonald All-Americans.
That's right.
And as a matter of fact, TC Darryl Mitchell, who finished at Minnesota, and he played with Kevin McHale. As a matter of fact, Kevin McHale was a senior when Darryl was a junior, and Darryl was the captain of the team.
That's right. I saw them play in Tallahassee.
And that was I think he was 78. So that was 10 years after Rick.
He was a class of 78.
But the experience that we had with that McDonald situation was great. For instance, we had the McDonald game with him in Philadelphia. So that was a great thing to get in the arena to play that game, and I got an opportunity to really to see Coach Wooden. As a matter of fact, we stayed at the same hotel, and I met him that morning in the coffee shop, and we had a great talk, great situation. And I see why he was so great. He was such a great person until you get him an opportunity to go back and meet him again.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it was really something really special. And then the second McDonald All-American I had was Derek
Harper,
and he played that game up in Washington D.C. And maybe one of the highlights of that thing was Dean Smith. And I met some great coaches who were great people.
Right, absolutely.
And I was really happy with that, and it's a funny thing about sports and what I met. I don't know what other people were dealing with, but I dealt with situations in sports wherein the coaches, I didn't see anything in terms of black and white.
Right.
Not with the coaches, not with me, because I know Joe Sarabola was coaching like at Palm Beach High.
Palm Beach High, right.
And when my players went over to Palm Beach Lakes, Twin Lakes it was then, I didn't worry about them because the guy was a good guy.
Right.
He was going to take care of them because he had been taking care of guys before, and he didn't have this thing around his neck. So also it even had happened before because with Rick and those teams when we played in the state, we had coaches, black and white. Every one of the coaches, it seemed in the county, was lined up down that court, pulling for us.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was really powerful.
That's powerful.
That might have come in some places in some areas. I didn't see them. I heard people telling lies about it, saying they had things that happened that didn't happen.
Right.
The truth is what I experienced, and I'm going to tell the truth about it.
Well, that's it, Coach. It's amazing. When we talk about that time, of course, some of us didn't get jobs. Roger Coffey didn't get the Atlantic High coaching the football job,
right?
Which, of course, we all, I'm going to be honest with you, Coach. One of the most disappointing things in my life as a football player was the fact that I didn't get a chance to play for Roger Coffey.
I can understand that.
And Coach Coffey lived right behind me, and his son, his oldest boy, is my very best friend in the world to this day. And so I grew up in Coach Coffey's home, you know, waiting for my opportunity. And, you know, we didn't get that. But here's the thing. The guy who was at Atlantic, who from Seacrest to Atlantic, was a guy by the name of Randy Cooper.
I remember Cooper.
Him and Coach Coffey were like buddies, right?
Yeah.
And so people on the outside was making it an issue, and it really wasn't an issue. Coach Cooper got the job. All right, so be it. You know, then Coach Coffey at Twin Lakes, you know, and so be it. And so those men, even though Coach Cooper was not the head coach by the time I got to Atlantic, I was coached by a great guy named Carney Wilder. You know, I'm glad Carney Wilder was my head coach at Atlantic High School. We won a lot of football games, right? And so all those men were good men. You know, they coached us, and we didn't have issues. You know, when I was in high school, we didn't have issues. You know, race issues. You know, of course, you got some stuff, but we had basically nothing. And so my experience at Atlantic High School was great, and all that kind of stuff. But we did have good men in Palm Beach County, white and black. But real quick, Coach, today is Martin Luther King's birthday, right?
Right.
We celebrate that today. And talking about him, I think back when y'all won that state championship, right?
Right.
A few weeks after that, we got the news that Martin Luther King was assassinated. You know, Bobby,
it was like a bittersweet thing that we had done that year.
Mm-hmm.
We had an exceptionally successful career and season. We had won a state championship. And then it happened where the prophet was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was assassinating, doing something for what most people a low-level job.
Right.
But that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the real prophet, that's for the people. Those are the people that they look out for. But not on the low people, but also the high people also. But they don't get the point. Martin Luther King was so far ahead of his time.
Yes, he was.
The old things we see now and experience, he's been there before.
That's right.
We had a special situation, I think, that happened in Palm Beach County.
Mm-hmm.
Riviera had some areas that started to get a little violent during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, in Palm Beach County, and including that would be Riviera Beach and West Palm Beach, it was protest, but it was sound. It wasn't violent.
Right.
And I thought that was a great respect because that's what Dr. King believed in.
Absolutely.
Believed in nonviolence. And I don't know if it happened just haphazardly, but it happened. But I know the King has a way of making things look that way.
That's right.
And not just Martin Luther King, but the other King who put it in place, who
That's
put
right.
Martin Luther King in place.
Right.
And I look at that now, and I think about what's going on now, and I look at these situations, and they look scary sometimes to be going back in that situation, and they got a different guy to deal with this time.
Right.
And sometimes I'm so afraid that it's going to be violence against violence, and that's bad.
That's bad, right?
That's real bad. You know, so, but it depends on what the maker wants to happen, because that is what will happen.
Absolutely.
Whether you think it's good or bad.
Right. That's right.
That is what will happen.
That's right.
You know, if I could, Bobby, when you talk about Martin Luther King, the celebration and all that, one of the things that I think about is there were a lot of people who participated in civil rights, voters' rights, the whole 9 yards that you never hear about. They may have picked cotton, they may have been cooks and maids, the whole 9 yards, but they were willing to put their lives on the line for all of us. And one of the things that's happening right now is we're having the opportunity to have an exhibit at the Historic Society of Palm Beach County. And this is one of the things that during Martin's time, or our time too, because I was born then, that we would dream about, just to be able to go into it. And now we have the opportunity to have an exhibit about not only the 68 basketball team, but how desegregation in the schools impacted the Black community.
Yes.
So for right now, the big deal is it's not just about February Black History Month, but the Historic Society decided to make this their kickoff event. I mean, that's big in itself.
Yes.
Plus, you have the full month of January, you have the full month of February as well. So that's all tied into this, and it's a big deal. And one of the things that people should know is you can go to that museum and see a lot of the history, not just about sports, but about your community, the culture, the lives, the whole 9 yards during that decade. And it's free. And it's Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And you owe it to yourself to go and bring someone with you, because we have so much history and we don't share enough of it, and we have to do a better job. And this is one of the easiest ways to do it. So I encourage people to go to the Historic Society in West Palm Beach and check out the museum over the next couple of months, because it's definitely worth it. And like I said, it's not just sports. It's about the Black culture and how the culture grew in the West Palm Beach area. So it's definitely worthwhile.
And so, Ricky, that's Monday through Saturday, you said?
Yeah, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
10 to 4.
Yeah.
Good.
Shout out to Shady. Shout out to Shady. They've done a great job.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We got some information from them and some help when I was in Arley. And they helped us a lot. And there's a different breed just a few miles away. And they work real hard to do historic things. And
that's great.
We got information that's going to help us a lot, but we just got to put our leadership in place.
Right.
Yeah. And that's another key point too that Coach is making. In West Palm Beach, we don't have a physical place where we can go and see Black history, or even what I would call American history, because in a lot of cases, Black people may be the primary focus, but some white person probably did something to help us along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And for me, if it happened in America, and if you're an American, it's American history, and it may focus on Black folks, but it's not just Black history. And Shady has done a great job compared to what I'm concluding myself, what we have done in West Palm Beach, because it's pathetic. We don't have a building that we can go to and see our history.
Absolutely.
And we ended up having to use the Historical Society, which is a great place, because not only do they have the facility, they have the expertise to not only exhibit it, but to preserve it. And the other nice thing too about this, Bobby, is after February, it's going to be a mobile exhibit. So it's not just going to be January, February, you put it in the closet.
Right.
The folks are going to be able to take it around the county. So it's a big historic moment that Coach Andrews and I have been working on with the Historic Society. And we invite anyone else to come on board and help us.
That's cool. And also they're gonna honor you guys again February 3rd. Is that right?
Yeah, February 3rd. Initially, it was going to be a reception, February 3rd, and a panel discussion. But with this COVID thing happening the way it is, it looks like it's going to be a virtual thing. So what will probably happen is you'll still get an invitation, but you'll be able to click in on a panel discussion. And part of the panel makeup is going to be Coach Andrews. It's going to be one of the journalists who covered high school sports back when we were in high school, Chuck Otterson. You're going to have one of the players from Roosevelt during the early 60s who was a very good player, Hall of Fame guy at Southern University, Calvin Patterson, also nicknamed Tick. So you have him, but also we're going to have the moderator, Nick Pugliese, who's not only the Palm Beach Post sports director, but he's handling a lot of things within the state of Florida in terms of sports. So it's a panel that's going to talk to sports, but also about the school desegregation. So that's going to be a big thing too. And the Historical Society is going to be able to have a link for people to even visit the exhibit after we do the panel discussion. So all that's happening during January and February.
Well, that's cool, man. We're gonna make sure every Monday when I do this show that we're gonna give people the opportunity to keep sharing it, on the show, to the end of February. So,
well, they definitely appreciate it. And one of the things that Coach didn't mention though is we were working with the Historical Society, but we wanted it to be something inclusive.
Right.
So we reached out to different organizations that includes ARLIC and also included the Roosevelt Alumni Association. But a real shout out goes to Earl Hutnell because his mother started a great historical, I'll call it archives, where she accumulated 300 plus items.
Wow.
And Earl and his family were willing to loan some of her artifacts to this exhibit. So definitely want to shout out to Earl Hutnell and his family for doing that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I just want to shout out just briefly that the people that grew up with me in this area and went to church, I'm a member of AME, and we learned a lot about African-American history when I was coming up. And that's where I got most of mine from, except the part that I lived.
Wow.
And I just like to say that because I don't know if other churches do it. I'm pretty sure they probably do.
Right.
But I know that the AME church that I attended had that, and it was very powerful.
Wow. Coach, did you attend Payne Chapel or St. Paul AME?
I attended Payne Chapel.
Payne Chapel. As a kid, I remember when Pastor Peck was the pastor there at Payne Chapel.
Yeah, one of my favorite pastors.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, guys, I got to say thank you guys so much for being on the show. Ricky, we got to do this again, man.
Okay. Well, we thank you, man. I mean, because it's a great opportunity and we'll do whatever we can. I only have one favor to ask, and that is repeat Coach Andrews' record again, because that's phenomenal, man.
Yes, absolutely. Coach Andrews' record is 421 wins versus 115 losses.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what I'm screaming.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Well, Ricky, listen at this now. You know why he's got that record, 421 and 115?
Nope.
Because he never thought he could lose a game. He come to halftime, he'll get it right. He'll get you we can win this game. Hey, Coach, man, I love you.
Okay.
Hey, Coach, I enjoyed the time that I was playing basketball at Atlantic High School when you were coaching TC and all those guys at North Shore. I got a chance to compete against you. We didn't do well against you guys, but I had a chance to compete against the best. And Ricky, thank you, man. I really appreciate our newfound friendship.
Yeah, no problem.
And well, listen, guys, that's our show tonight. And so if you like the video, comment it, share it with your friends. This is 100 Yards of Football. And tonight we had the great legends, Coach Floyd Andrews and Mr. Rick Easley, Roosevelt High School, Southern University. Thank you, guys.
All right.